The exploration of cultural practices, especially those related to intimate aspects of human life like sex and marriage, demands utmost sensitivity. We must approach this topic with respect and a commitment to accuracy. Sensationalism has no place here. Our goal is to understand, not to judge. Human societies, in their remarkable diversity, have developed a wide array of customs and traditions related to marriage and sexual relationships. Some of these practices might appear unusual or even controversial when viewed through the lens of other cultures. It is important to remember that each culture has its own internal logic and history. We should strive to understand these practices within their specific contexts. The abduction of women for marriage, while abhorrent by today's standards, has been a recurring theme throughout history. This practice, often rooted in patriarchal power structures and notions of women as property, highlights the complexities of cultural evolution and the slow march of human rights. The Roman myth of the rape of the Sabine women offers a powerful example of abduction as a historical motif. This story, deeply embedded in Roman mythology, has been depicted in countless works of art and literature over the centuries, each adding layers of interpretation and meaning. The tale begins with the early days of Rome, a fledgling city-state founded by Romulus. Faced with a shortage of women, Romulus devised a plan that would forever alter the course of Roman history. According to legend, Romulus, the founder of Rome, orchestrated the mass abduction of Sabine women to provide wives for his male citizens. This event, known as the rape of the Sabine women, was not a singular act of violence, but a calculated strategy to ensure the survival and growth of Rome. The Sabine men, unprepared for such treachery, were unable to prevent the abduction of their daughters, sisters, and wives. This act of desperation by Romulus highlights the lengths to which early Romans were willing to go to secure their future. This act, while often romanticized in art and literature, underscores the brutal reality of a time when women had little agency over their own bodies and destinies. The Sabine women, torn from their families and thrust into a new life, faced unimaginable challenges. Their plight has been depicted in various forms of art, often showing them in states of distress and vulnerability. These representations serve as a stark reminder of the historical subjugation of women and the power dynamics at play. The Sabine women's story is further complicated by narratives that depict them as eventually accepting their Roman husbands and becoming integrated into Roman society. These accounts suggest a gradual process of assimilation and acceptance where the Sabine women, over time, found a place within the Roman community. This portrayal, however, raises questions about the nature of their acceptance. Was it genuine, or was it a survival mechanism in a world where they had little choice? This raises uncomfortable questions about consent, coercion, and the blurred lines between captivity and acceptance in the ancient world. The story of the Sabine women forces us to confront the complexities of human relationships and the ways in which power and control can shape narratives. It challenges us to think critically about the historical context and the lived experiences of those who were often voiceless. In examining this case study, we gain a deeper understanding of the intricate dynamics of power, gender, and society in ancient Rome. Sadly, the exploitation of vulnerable communities for sexual purposes is not just a relic of the past. It continues to plague our world today, often fueled by economic disparities, discrimination, and the legacy of colonialism. The Jarawa tribe of the Andaman Islands serves as a stark reminder of this ongoing tragedy. This indigenous community, which has lived in relative isolation for centuries, has become increasingly vulnerable to exploitation, including sexual abuse, at the hands of outsiders seeking to profit from their isolation. The Jarawa people have thrived in the dense forests of the Andaman Islands, maintaining their unique way of life and cultural heritage. However, the encroachment of modern civilization has brought with it numerous challenges. Reports of poachers and fishermen luring Jarawa women with alcohol or food in exchange for sex are deeply disturbing. These acts of exploitation not only violate the fundamental rights of these women, but also threaten the very survival of this fragile culture. The Jarawa's isolation, once a shield that protected their way of life, has now become a vulnerability. The allure of modern goods and the coercion by outsiders have led to a tragic erosion of their cultural integrity. The introduction of alcohol and other substances has had devastating effects on their health and social structure. The Jarawa, who once lived in harmony with nature, are now facing the dire consequences of these external influences. Activists and human rights advocates are raising their voices, calling for immediate action to protect the Jarawa. They emphasize the need for stringent laws and enforcement to prevent further exploitation. The preservation of the Jarawa's cultural heritage is not just about protecting a community, it is about safeguarding a piece of human history. The world must recognize the importance of these indigenous people and take collective responsibility to ensure their survival and dignity. The discussion of cultural practices, especially those that might seem harmful or exploitative, inevitably leads us to the complex intersection of cultural relativism and universal human rights. Cultural relativism encourages us to understand practices within their own cultural contexts, avoiding hasty judgments based on our own values. However, this principle should never be used to justify or excuse practices that violate the fundamental rights inherent to all human beings. The right to bodily autonomy, to live free from violence and exploitation, transcends cultural boundaries. It is a universal imperative. As we grapple with the complexities of cultural diversity and the legacy of harmful practices, we find ourselves at a crossroads. The choices we make today will shape the world of tomorrow. It is not just about acknowledging the differences that exist among us, but also about celebrating them. Each culture, each tradition, and each individual brings something unique to the table, enriching the tapestry of our shared human experience. It is essential to remember our shared humanity. Respect, consent, and the inherent dignity of every individual must guide our interactions with each other. When we approach each other with an open heart and an open mind, we create spaces where everyone feels valued and heard. This is the foundation of true community, where unity is not just a word, but a lived reality. Our interactions, both within and across cultures, must be rooted in these principles. It is through respectful dialogue and mutual understanding that we can bridge the gaps that divide us. Listening is just as important as speaking, and sometimes even more so. By truly hearing each other's stories and perspectives, we can find common ground and build stronger, more resilient communities. Collaboration is key. When people from different backgrounds come together to work towards a common goal, the results can be transformative. Whether it's in the workplace, in our neighborhoods, or on a global scale, teamwork and cooperation can lead to innovative solutions and positive change. We must embrace the diversity of thought and experience that each person brings, recognizing that our differences are our strengths. We must challenge and condemn practices that perpetuate harm. This means standing up against injustice, discrimination, and inequality wherever we see it. It is not enough to be passive observers. We must be active participants in the fight for a fairer, more just world. This requires courage, determination, and a willingness to speak out, even when it is difficult, while also working to understand the historical and social forces that have shaped them. Education and awareness are powerful tools in this endeavor. By learning about the past, we can better understand the present and work towards a more equitable future. This involves not only formal education, but also community-based learning and dialogue. It is through these conversations that we can begin to dismantle the systems of oppression that have been in place for far too long. A commitment to justice is crucial to building a world where the exploitation of vulnerable communities becomes a relic of the past. This means advocating for policies and practices that promote equality and protect the rights of all individuals. It means supporting organizations and movements that are working towards social justice and being allies to those who are marginalized. Together, we can create a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, free from the constraints of prejudice and discrimination.